Hi, can you hear me? Can you hear me at all? Can you hear me? Wait. Nope, not working. Oh, fuck that. How's that? Can you hear me? Can you hear me at all? Oh. Wait, join audio. Gosh, just a second. Here we go.
Okay, you know what?
I got it.
Why are they shouting? Why do you have to shout at me?
Because you never listen to me.
I knew they were connected. I knew it.
Then why do you not listen to me? Okay, I want to
What?
try something. You can't
Yes.
listen with your eyes. I'm gonna put this in because I'm on a different device. I was on my computer. I'm on a tablet. Let's see if you can hear
You
me.
know,
with-
I don't need to hear blah, blah,
Wow,
blah.
you know
just
what?
make it work. I don't need to
Wow,
know
you're
why.
the best
all right?
priest. What must confession be like with you? I don't
Oh,
want to hear it.
short.
Keep it short. Okay, just a second. Let's see if this works.
Wrap it up. Wrap it up.
I got the
Sad
picture. You cheated
sad
on your
sack.
husband. Why do I
Yeah,
need to know the details?
I got it. you,
Honestly, that's
I got
between
it.
you and him. And you know what I mean?
you had a wash towel up your butt. Got it.
Got it. 3 Hail Marys and do
Get
what
out.
you want. All right. Can you hear me?
I can.
Oh, wonderful. I
Yes.
can hear you too.
I can.
Oh my God. Hi, Terry
you
Gross.
Are
Well,
you ready?
Yes, I am. Terry, it's
Terry
interesting.
Gross with fresh air.
Fresh air. It's interesting you
Fresh
should ask
air.
me, Terry.
Fresh-
Terry,
fresh-
can you stop saying fresh air for a second and let me answer the question?
Fresh air.
Okay, Terry.
How does she do it? She's like, fresh air. Fresh. I can't do it.
Fresh air. Is she still doing fresh air?
I think she is.
Is she? 'Cause I
Yeah,
know
was
she wasn't for a
surprised how
while.
short she was.
She's really
No,
short.
I think she's back doing it.
Okay, good.
Did you ever listen to Krista Tippett on Being?
On what? I don't
She
even know what
does
that
a
is.
podcast program called On Being with Krista
Oh.
Tippett.
Right.
Sometimes
wait,
it's
let me get
great,
my-
but sometimes it's almost a mockery, a parody of itself. It's so
Really?
sincere.
Let me get this microphone in a decent spot. Maybe this Coca-Cola sweatshirt, cute as it is not perfect. Okay, that's good enough, I guess. There we go.
Super
Alright.
cute.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Perfect.
Yeah, I love
So
it.
let's do our clap, shall
Yep,
we?
absolutely. I know it. 1, 2. I got it.
1, 2. Great.
I think we got it.
Fantastic.
Yep.
And we're back.
We're back. Welcome back to another fabulous nothing on this Saturday afternoon. It's a rainy Saturday afternoon here in Seattle. How's it there?
Is it rainy? It's very cold. It's about 18 degrees.
Oh my God.
I did an epic trip downtown, which is Metro North down to 42nd Street, walking down to 14th Street.
I know how. What?
Went to the farmer's market, went to my favorite bookstore on 10th, past Julius's, one of the oldest gay bars in the world. It was beautiful. There are zero tourists,
I bet.
which has been the case for months. It's just been New
terrible.
York without the tourists. New York for New Yorkers, and you know what?
What?
The tourists bring a lot of money.
Yeah, no shit, right? I mean, it's nice. Yeah, absolutely. Like, I wish there weren't people out and about in Seattle. There are. But you go to walk by restaurants and stuff. I mean, like, whatever. Everyone knows this story. But it's just like, wow.
It is intense. Have you spent much time in New York?
I have spent some time. I've been maybe 4 or 5 times. Each time no longer than a week. So I've never, like, been in New York for a substantial amount of time to really feel it, and mostly spent time in Brooklyn with, the folks that I did theater with who were out there. The first time I was in New York, I ended up there when I was coming to Seattle, actually. I was flying into Seattle. I'd never been to Seattle before. I was layover in New York, and I got stuck in New York overnight. And they put me up in a hotel. I was so excited. It was night. And I'm just like, oh my God, New York City. I get to my hotel, which is near Times Square, I think. And I'm like, I'm going to take a walk to Times Square. And this is back when Times Square was actually like 92, so it was still Times Square, right? So I'm like, I'm going to walk to Times Square. And I go out of the hotel, and I go the wrong way. And I'm walking for blocks, and there's nothing. It's just dead.
Until you get to the river.
Right, totally. I'm probably walking to the business district, right? It's just like, there's nothing here in New York. New York is dead, man. No kidding, it's over. Escape from New York, good Lord. Get me out of
It's
here.
no longer happening. Yeah.
And then the next day I went to Times Square and sucked a couple dicks at the glory holes in the porn theaters that are no longer there. I sure did
Oh
it.
my Lord.
That's all I wanted to do. That's all I wanted to go to Times Square. That's all I wanted to do.
And
I
you
mean,
did
not,
it.
yeah, I did. I mean, not exactly all I wanted to do, but really, I was like New York, and I'd seen, all the movies. I saw what is the fucking
Cruising.
yeah, whatever, right?
Yeah. So my question about the whole glory hole thing is:
You have one question. Go ahead.
wait, is it actually sexy or just sort of strange, like the dynamics of like, okay, now
No.
there's a wall and there's a
Yeah.
hole. Some things are not as sexy as advertised.
It depends. I mean, is it in and of itself sexy? Removed from no. I mean, I guess. I mean, like anything. Yes, I find it sexy. I do. I
I
find
remember you telling
not
me
sexy. Like sexy is like a person or whatever. It's not sexy. It's hot. It is like a charged
true, yeah.
sexual situation because you go and you're cruising and it's dirty. And I like dirty sex. I like that whole underworld of like porno theaters and all that stuff. I love it. Sex in bathrooms, I'm there for it. Not anymore, not these days. But, back just a year ago. But yeah, glory hole, because you go, and the nice thing about the glory hole, if we're going to talk about that on another Fabulous Nothing Terry, is you can sort of get an idea of who's there. There's a certain tension because you don't know, more in a bathroom than at a video parlor, more used to bathroom glory holes. There's this tension of like, is it going to happen? You kind of look through the thing, and there's a very, like the cruising of that, the sort of dance of like, put it through. And then they put it through, and then it's just like, it could be anybody you want it to be. You know what I mean? You get a hint of who it is. It's like, I think that looks like a Latino laborer. Great, bring it on through. I'll take care of you. And then it's what it is. And then they're done and they're gone and you never see them. You never talk to them. It's it. And there's something about.
Don't you think that on the other side, there's so much kind of either fatalistic or blind trust? I mean,
Yes, of course there is. Of course there is.
Lord,
You don't
man.
think I haven't thought at least once when I stuck my dick through a glory hole, I hope they don't have a knife. Right?
More than once. I would think. Good Lord.
You just,
Yeah.
you know what? You have faith in the goodness of mankind, humankind, and you just stick your dick through and say, probably they don't.
I want to stitch that on a pillow somewhere.
It's just like razor blades and apples. It has happened, but not often. You know
Not
what I mean?
always.
Not always. I mean, you don't want it to happen, that's for sure. But it
I
doesn't.
just want this Halloween to be razor free. Now,
Just this one time,
now,
please.
now, kids, get out there.
Take the apple. Take the apple, and bite into it, and let's see what happens.
It's the only way.
It's
You're gonna
really
have to
like, you
live.
know what I mean? You can look for like, because if someone could put a razor blade in an apple, you can find it. Come on, it's not. How are they going to get it in there? It's not like a Tylenol where they can open it up and reseal it and put like the poison in it. They got to put the razor blade in there somehow. So look for the
Yeah.
edges, look for
Yeah.
a mark, look for a hole,
No,
and then if
I
there's
got it.
not, you're probably okay.
Right, and I think that any child who's complaining to you, Stephen, you would just tell them a glory hole story. You want real risk.
You know what's really dangerous, but way more fun than eating an apple, honestly? I mean, if we're talking about cost-benefit ratio and risk for reward, eating an apple, would you eat an apple on a regular day? No, child, you wouldn't. You didn't want that apple in the first place, honestly.
What if you're at a glory hole and someone puts an apple through instead? Would you buy?
It depends. Right now, being unemployed, I take the apple and say thank you. Unless, honestly, if it was like a Macintosh, like if it's a ruby red, all these things, there's a certain type of apple that has
obviously.
like bump, yeah, right. It has bumps on the bottom and it's kind of hard skinned. That I'd put back. I'd be like, I don't want that. But if it's like that new one, like that Galaxy apple, whatever that one is, I want that.
Oh yeah, or I've been eating a lot of
Pink ladies.
this red snapdragon,
Oh.
which is a new variety, which is so good.
Yeah. Do you like
it's
pink
so
ladies? Do you know what I'm talking about when I say that?
I like. Please, who are you talking to? Of course.
I don't know.
But pink ladies are only, I have pink ladies, but they're only for an apple galette that I make because I think they're better for a particular kind of
Really?
open face.
I
tart
like
that
them.
make.
I like them better. What is it? Is Macintosh the really shitty one that has the bumps on the bottom?
No, Macintosh is fine. It's just better, like if you're gonna make,
Apple
an
pie or something. Right,
yeah,
right.
But I don't want to eat it.
No, because you eat it and it's just so. We're not. Hello, everybody. America or wherever, Canada.
America, are you still there? 'Cause this
Tokyo.
is the Glory Hole Apple.
Baden-Baden, are you coming in? We're talking about
Hello?
apples. Hello, anybody?
Mom.
Is anybody
Mom,
listening?
Mom.
Mom, you are listening. Oh my God. I'm sorry. Well, you can't be that surprised.
that I don't like that Macintosh apple.
I hate Macintosh apples, Mom. You know that from when I was a kid.
I can't hide it any longer from you.
Don't tell Dad. He always gives me a Macintosh apple on my birthday because I once
Speaking of your-
mentioned it.
Speaking of your dad in glory holes,
Yes,
you know,
please.
I
Oh my God. Dad, don't listen to this podcast. Okay, go ahead. He won't. He likes things. He already
Okay,
told me. I know
now-
that he watches my dances and likes them, but he doesn't really watch them. I mean, he'll like it just to be supportive. Because I quizzed him once, or I asked a question he didn't know, and I was like, oh, he doesn't actually watch them. Of course he doesn't. Good for him. He just supports his son, right?
God bless him.
Like most
That's nice.
people. Oh, Steven, good for you. Way to try.
Aw.
Good for you.
Was there a particular topic for today? I mean,
No.
this is fine.
No, there isn't. And I think probably we've gotten our introductions out of the way. And we talked, how far into my meth story did we get? I mean, if we want to go back to that or, it's up to you. Because for me, I want to ask you more about your journey to where you're at now. And we talked some about the choice you made and why, but I'm still interested, actually, you know what? I think I have a fairly clear idea of your journey. I want to talk more about religion, honestly.
Okay, great.
If that's
Great.
interesting, if that's interesting to you. Do you have any interest
Yeah.
in religion as a topic?
Sure, I am.
Father.
Are you? I know that you might be clear on the journey
Yeah.
that I've taken. I can't remember. Do you think that as far as what we're doing now, do we need to do a piece, a section on why I did what I did, or not?
I think we talked about it in one of our earlier discussions, one of our
well,
first discussions. If you feel like there's some things you want, I feel like if there's things you want to say about it, I understand the decision that you made. Well, yeah, I guess. And then what? Well, I don't know. It's a very deep question, right? It's a deep question. Like, why did you? Because that's like, I can say, oh, I'm an actor, which is, it's kind of half-ass a bit. But to become a father, become a Jesuit priest is like, that's a commitment of your life.
Well, it's a little like answering the question of like, why are you married to that person? You're like,
Oh,
well,
God,
it's
don't
kinda-
start me on
there's
that.
a lot. There's a lot going on. You know.
Right, for sure.
Yeah, it's the same. Yeah. So,
So I don't know. Let's just continue to talk because I don't have any questions for you at this point in that area.
Good.
And if Jason
Sounds good.
decides later that we should talk more about that journey, then we can do
yeah,
that.
sure. Fine with me.
So,
Now,
really,
when we had spoken, like when we kind of reconnected after about 25 years,
Yeah,
you
right.
had said you had questions about, or you were kind of exploring Christianity, maybe. And can you just kind of bring me up to date on?
Yeah.
Did
Yeah.
were you raised in
No.
a Christian faith?
Nope,
You
nothing.
were not raised with anything.
Nothing. No. My parents, I believe, were Catholic, but like not at all. There was no religious upbringing for me. We didn't. I think they.
And are the Handos like Lithuanian or Ukrainian or
The
something?
Handos are Hungarian.
Or
So my
Hungarian?
dad's side of the family is Hungarian. My grandmother, she has passed, but she was very religious. Excuse me. My mother, I have no sense. My mother is French Canadian. Her background is a little fuzzier to me as far as like what the exact makeup of it is. But I know it is. I believe there's some German, French, Irish, whatever. But French
Oh,
Canadian.
were the Hungarians Catholic or Orthodox or what?
I don't believe Catholic. I have to say I never talked to my grandmother about it. And for me, religion is like, at least at that point, certainly when I was, even still, I'm like Baptist, Catholic, Protestant. I don't have a clear sense of distinction between them.
Sure.
So I don't know. Not Catholic, like, I don't know, she might have been. I have no sense. I know she
okay.
was very religious though. Like when I went back, there was a time, she was certainly not happy with not happy, she was not accepting of my being gay until like much later. And even then it was very sort of like, it's sort of at one point, it was love the sinner, not the sin kind of acceptance. And I was like, when I found that out, I was like, that's not acceptable. And I went off on my whole family. There was this period
You
where I
didn't-
just went off.
I think
Yeah.
you're frozen, at least on my part here.
Am I?
Do we want to fix that?
I don't know what to
I
do.
think we better.
Can you hear me?
Do you want to call back in or?
Can you hear me? Oh, well, now what? Oh, you're
there.
freezing up. Okay.
You-
It was
you
you
were
that was
frozen.
frozen. You were frozen.
Isn't mine says my internet connection is unstable. That seems.
That's you. That's all on you.
unlikely.
Oh, well, it's not me. I can't make your internet unstable. That's not me doing it. Maybe it is.
Okay, good. We're back.
Thank you. We're back.
We're back.
So I did not come up in any religion. I had just being a person in North America. Of course, you're exposed to it. The first place that I sang, where somebody said anything about it, was I went to Sunday school with my friend Simon, who is English. We went to Knox Presbyterian Church, which was right up the street, and I went to Sunday school with him for a very short period of time. But I remember going, and somehow I ended up in the choir, and the priest talked to my mother and said, "Oh, he's very talented. He's a great singer." And I was like, "Oh, okay, that's nice."
Nice. I'm going to let some people in the hall pass.
How big is your
because-
apartment?
It's only 2 rooms. But it's in a residence hall, so there's some students moving in. So
I see.
That they've passed. So
I'm sorry to hear that. well,
not
par
ev-
for the course.
not everyone's going to make it.
No, that's for sure. That's for damn sure. Well, you
I'm
know,
just glad it's not me. I mean,
your time will
I
come.
got vaccinated. Yeah, I was on the raft first.
You only have one, though. You only have one. You got to get 2.
Hey, yeah, I've got it scheduled.
Hold
all I
on.
got to say.
Hold on, St. Christopher. Let's go. You can make it. My interest in religion, up until very recently, has been fairly I've never been. The advantage that gave me through life was that I was never bitter about religion. You know what I mean? I never was making fun of religion, like how Dan Savage, for example, if we're going to bring him back around, obviously came up with a religious background, and it's a big thing for him. And there's a lot of people where a lot of comedy and a lot of anger and a lot of stuff is based in religion. And I have none of that. I have no dog in the fight at all. You know, I'm like, yeah, it seems unreasonable. But I don't hate nuns. I don't hate priests, whatever. I mean, I have no background in that. I can say, oh, yeah, I can see if they beat you. Probably I would be mad about it, too. And I might hold on to that for a while. Like Christopher Durang's Sister Mary Ignatius. I was kind of like, funny, I get it. But, none of that is me.
Correct.
You know?
Yeah, yeah. And I would agree. I mean, that's not my experience either.
Right.
So, I don't. And in many ways, I still have people in my hallway.
I hate them. Do they know?
No, they don't. I mean, I took the time to wire a red light in the hall that said recording, but no one. I mean,
That means,
people ignore that.
No, if they're not show business people, they don't know.
They're not showbiz. They're not showbiz people. I can't help it.
Does this mean nothing to you?
We're a couple of gypsies.
Quiet on the set.
God.
There's an airplane going over. Hold on.
This is my religion, theater.
That's right.
This is my church.
That's right. You don't think that's valid? Sir, we didn't say anything to you. You don't think that's valid? Sir.
Ma'am.
Who's that middle-aged woman in the hallway yelling about theater?
Ma'am.
Does no one care? Why are you so angry at me? Wow.
Any number of reasons.
Really, right?
Okay. So that was not part of your thing at all. Yeah. So
Yeah,
it
no.
wasn't mine. It wasn't mine either.
But you went to
And
church?
I grew. Yeah, but I grew up Catholic, but out in the middle of nowhere. So that wasn't.
Right.
I always say that I grew up Catholic, but not in a Catholic culture.
Right. Did you go
So
to
it
Catholic
was-
church on Sundays?
Yeah. But I went on Saturday night because it was a mission church, and the priest had to come out and do a special thing because
Was it a shorter ceremony than you would expect in a regular Catholic church?
No, about the same. It's always about an hour. It's not egregious. It's
So
not like-
boring, though. I mean, can we talk about Catholic church for a second? Catholic weddings
Sure.
are really my only experience with Catholic church. I mean, I've been in Catholic churches, but I've never been to a full mass, but I've been to a wedding. And oh my God, it's so boring. It's so boring. It goes on and on forever. You're constantly standing up when you don't want to. And I wrote about this recently, but you have to go up and take the communion. Like, they take the communion, but it's like, not you. I'm like, well, then why did you invite me? You know, like.
I think you went, just to be clear, you know, sometimes if you go to theater and it's not a very good show,
Yes.
and you say, I hate theater, and
Right.
you might say you just went to a bad show.
I guess. I mean, they were lovely.
No, I guess. No, that's exactly it. Because
me tell you
sounds
who-
like you
I-
went
it
to
was-
a bad experience.
Maybe. You could talk to, it was Mike Daisy's wedding, if you want to know. It was a Catholic wedding when he got married. I mean, you know who Mike Daisy is? We can cut this out.
I do, yeah.
Yeah. NPR
Yeah.
listeners, you know Mike Daisy. You may be familiar with. Oh.
Anybody?
Oh, yeah, they would know. But he's a pretty cool guy, an interesting person. You think they would it just be the priest that would make that shitty? Like, why would it be shittier than, because you're just standing up there going like, yes, and a God, and like, why would it be?
What was it? Was it a big mixed crowd in the sense of like there
Yeah.
were a lot of non-Catholics
Yeah,
there?
probably. It was in a beautiful Catholic
Right.
church. It wasn't like in a shitty little rec
No,
hall.
it doesn't have to do about the quality of the building. It has more to do with for me. This is a longer topic, but for me, that's
Yeah, this is what we're talking about.
That's a hospitality question. So if like I do a lot of weddings, well,
Mm-hmm.
some weddings, and you can do a wedding that's just the ceremony, or
Right.
you can do the wedding that's a ceremony within a Catholic mass, which would be involving communion and all.
It
the
must
rest.
have been that, yeah.
So they did the latter for reasons that they chose. I don't know.
Right.
But what it does is it creates the experience you just had, which is an experience of we don't know what's going on, and plus it's really long and boring. Hold
Right, right. I hate them so much.
Well, we're just going to have to power through because
Yeah, it's fine.
It's move-in day, and
We have
that's okay.
sophisticated listeners for this podcast, and I think they understand that life is life right now, and you can't expect perfection.
Yeah, and
That's
you know
one
what?
thing.
I live in a residence hall on a college campus.
Good
That's
for you.
what it is.
You're so
Third
that life
floor,
of
and I'm-
simple. You gave it
And
all up.
I'm a man of 58 living in 2 dorm rooms with freshman girls.
Well,
Check
I'm a
it
man
out,
of
check it
50
out.
living in a house with 3 other bachelors, theater folks.
Yeah, check it out.
Yeah, that's life, baby.
Yeah, the lower depths. So anyway,
Yes, okay, sorry.
and what it breeds is like you don't know what the hell's going on. It
Right.
seems a lot of boring mumbo jumbo, and
Yes.
then you get to feel excluded.
Yes,
so
right, exactly.
There are ways to do it differently. So that's
How would
why
you
I'm
do
saying.
it? Yeah. So how would it be different? And this is like a good, I think, segue into what it is you do. How would it be different if you were doing it and you knew that it was a mixed crowd and they didn't ask you? They must have asked. I mean, I guess it was a family or something that demanded
Yeah,
the whole thing, the whole kit and kabang. But what would you do different?
It's hard to tell. Well, first of all, religion has to be, the ceremony has to fit the couple.
Right.
Like, do they want to do it, or are they doing it for grandma? If they're doing it for grandma, let's think about that.
Right.
Okay, number one. Number two, who's going to be there? Like, let's do the shorter version, which is a lot shorter. There's no
Right.
Catholic mass. It's just the
Right.
ceremony itself.
How long is the
And you do-
ceremony in that case?
It's maybe like 15 minutes.
Yeah, just a basic kind of ceremony where you have them come up and you say, hey, whatever, vows, God.
Yeah,
you
you-
see them
you
and
do
you
the
all, we
vows.
all, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but if it's a Catholic, if it's a big group of Catholics, and they want to do the whole Catholic mass thing, it makes sense to everybody. Everybody's on board, and then you do it. It's
Right,
fine.
right.
Yeah. So, anyway, I'm sorry you had that experience.
No, it wasn't.
so
It
how-
wasn't terrible. I mean, it wasn't. It was not. I don't want to. I'm sorry to everyone involved in that wedding. It wasn't that bad. It was just, and my experience.
Alienating.
Yeah. And I went to like probably Christmas masses and stuff like that at a Catholic church, where you're just like, it feels a bit. I'm going to say, I don't think this is. I'm the first person to ever say this. It feels a bit culty when you're in a Catholic church and you're not Catholic. Everyone knows what's happening. Everyone knows what to say, when to stand up, and you're like, what? There's not a lot of like guidance and not a lot of like welcomingness if you're not part of that culture when you go to a Catholic mass. That's been my experience, because there's just so much that is known by the parish, and so much that is like a ritual, that if you're in there, you're like, do I stand up? Do I sit down? What's everyone saying? You say, hi neighbor. Is that what we're doing now? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, it is. It is, and it's cultic. It's not a cult.
No,
but
and
it's
I'm not
cultic.
saying that. I don't wish to say that. But it does
No,
when
no,
you're
no,
coming.
but-
I have felt that way sitting in the parish, thinking like, not. I wouldn't say Catholicism is a cult, but I feel like, ooh, this is what it feels very much like that when you're inside of it, not as a member of the parish. It's just
Of
like,
course it would, because it's cultic.
right. What does that
And
mean?
cult-
What's the
and
difference?
Cult and cultic have really specific meanings.
Yeah.
Cultic is those pieces, what you just said, those pieces of insider information.
Right.
And they're not insider information as in they don't belong to anybody else and forget it. There may be pieces of that. But it's much more identity is
Right.
built by everyone being on
Absolutely.
a similar page.
Makes
and there are
sense.
rituals. There are rituals that a person chooses to be
Right.
part of this group.
Absolutely.
That's
No,
what
that
they do.
totally
Yeah.
makes sense to me.
And-
Excuse me.
And I think that, there's kind of a ongoing struggle for any group, whether it's a family or theater or a workspace or a church, in order to not speak insider language. If you actually want people to join you,
Right, sure.
If you want
Right.
people to feel comfortable, explain to them what's going on, invite them into what's
Right.
going on. So,
Yeah, yeah.
and often, and the church, and it's not just the Catholic Church, but groups
No.
like the church, often end up speaking code all the time. Like I went to, I'll give you an example. The job I had before this was I was at the job I had before this was I was at the Catholic Student Center at Boise State University.
Right.
And I get there, and it's a small organization, but they have a church and everything. And the announcements, they get up, they do the announcements, and the announcements went like this: to a group of students,
Right.
but a group, and it's an open church, everyone's welcome, right? It's
Yeah.
early in the year, and they say, if you're interested in the Urban Splash, please see Rose in the Nook. Okay, I don't know what the Urban Splash is. I
I'm
don't know where the
interested.
Nook is, and I don't know who Rose is.
Besides Rose, I'm interested in Nooks, absolutely, and urban
Right.
splashes.
And-
I'm down for it, probably.
and so the question is, why don't new people ever join? Like,
Right.
well,
Yeah, really.
who even knows where the Nook
Exactly.
is? Let's start there.
Exactly.
So
No, I
and
hear
that's
that.
just an example. Yeah.
When I went to, so I told you about Pastor Dave here in the church, just not too far away. I wandered by. They were having their ceremony. Their ceremony. What's that called? A ceremony? What is
Mass.
it? Their mass. Thank
Mass.
you. But not Catholic. So what would it be in that case? The
Service.
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 Thank you. Their performance was on Sunday morning, and it was being held outside, and so it was in the parking lot behind Dick's Burgers, which is not too far away from where I live. And so I was wandering down there. I saw them, they were out there in their chairs sitting there. And so I go and I sit down on the ground, leaning up against this like stone block that was there. And I'm listening to him, and he was talking, and I may have talked about this before, but he was talking about God's love. The whole sermon was about God's love and what that means in relationship to what was going on, because this was now, right? With a few months ago, but certainly now. And I agreed. I was with him. He's really great. We've talked since then and all these things. So I was really into the service that he was giving. And you could tell everybody was sort of side-eyeing me. And two people lovely came over with chairs, offering them to me. I was like, no, I'm good. Like, who's this wonderful man who's wandered in to sit on the ground where he's comfortable listening to the service? I'm like, it's Jesus, y'all. but I'm in this service listening, and it's great. But I'm agreeing with him. And it was not a Black Baptist church, let's say that. Because I'm like, what do they do here? When he says something that you go, yes, you know what I mean? How do you show something profound, truth? I was like patting on the ground, looking around me, trying to decide, what do they do here? How do they get involved, right?
How do they show it?
Right, and they just listen, I guess. But other churches I know, you get the kind of like callback and stuff, which it sounds a lot more fun to me. So in that case, they were very welcoming in a way, but I was very still like, what's the rules here? Trying to sort it out, which you always do in any situation. And you're right, connecting that to theater or modern dance, you can get to a certain level, not level, but like complexity or whatever, you get into theater and dance where you sort of need a way in. And so I can walk into a modern dance piece where everyone's like hanging off of like whatever. And I'm like, oh yeah, great. And it's like the inside of a 7-Eleven I'm walking through or whatever. No one needs to tell me what's happening. No one needs to tell me what I'm supposed to do, right?
Yeah.
But an audience member comes in and there's like, someone's throwing a piece of pie past their head, and they're like, "What is this? Like, don't you get it? Like, the pie is America or whatever." But like, so it's similar to way where it's just like it's very alienating for those people who don't know what's going on. Like, and I was actually talking to when I broke off and we had a few discussions with some folks in this church. They had a discussion group that was meeting, and I went with them for a few times on Zoom, and talking about why there are not more young people in the church, in that church specifically. And it's like, well, in that case, and Catholicism is based on tradition very much, it seems to me. But it's like, you're going to a service that was built for your parents' parents, and it hasn't changed. And God's word and the message is not, I mean, it may be more, the ritual I understand, but the message, and I know people are trying to make these things like Christian rap songs and all these things, Christian rock music, surely sucks usually. But like the attempt to like update it, and not in a superficial way, but in a real way, to say like what, and not like, we're doing it on Zoom now, kids. Bam, 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 modern church, y'all. And it's just like, well, okay, you're attempting anyway. But how to really, because that's what it seems like. It's like, this ceremony is not for your parents. It wasn't even for your parents, or even your parents' parents. It was your parents' parents' parents, and what made sense to that culture. But like, it's continuing on, so no wonder it seems boring and not relevant. And I'm not like, I haven't been to any of the new church kind of things, and I'm real dubious about them because they seem real smiley to me. You know what I'm saying? Like those denominations where it's like, hey guys, come to church, man. It's cool. We love Jesus. Like, oh my God.
And I'm deep into these conversations because one of the things that really interests me is how all this works.
Right.
And I'm a theater person,
right.
So how does it work? And as an artist who's interested actually in communicating, but within forms,
for sure.
or rituals
right.
or structures,
right.
And also then everyone knows the dance steps well enough to break them.
Right.
You know what I mean? I mean, like
yes.
modern dancers, good modern dancers are typically people that are really well trained.
Right.
You know, and they know the stuff, why they're breaking the stuff. And so if you go to Mark Morris, Mark Morris is actually a really well-trained dancer.
Right.
And his troupe is really well-trained, and then they can mess around with it.
Right.
And really take us on a journey that is really interesting for all of us.
Right.
And I think that case is with, and I speak from, a Catholic tradition about how to change that. I'm going to turn off the refrigerator. I'll be right back because, I can't take it.
Okay. While we're holding here, I'm going to talk a little bit about my... Let me get a drink, too. How do I do this without ruining everything? Let's see if I can do this. Oh, great. That's wine.
And we're back.
And we're back. A little refreshing wine and Coca-Cola.
Yes. And those things about how the church can be updated or made relevant are often, I think, just a dead end.
Right.
Because I think that the bones of Catholic worship are basic enough and solid enough that they can be built on by just about anybody.
Right.
Yeah, and it's like when you get down to really basic pieces about theater, like there's someone in front, there's a group that's watching.
Right.
Like some of those basic pieces, or you can mess with them, but you can also build on them. And it's not, I just don't think you have to jazz up things because the youth need this or
that's
rap or all that other stuff. It's just
right.
Not the case.
But
because all of us long for meaning and for belonging. And for a certain amount of support in moving forward, and those kind of things. And for me, the key part is Jesus, right? And so a Catholic Mass does not make any sense at all unless you're actually somehow have been invited into before, after, during, whatever, historically, to seeing it as a way to get to be in communion with each other and with Christ.
Right.
So.
Let's stay on that topic for a second. It seems with the Catholic Church, more than others, I would think, within the Christian world of religions, that ritual and tradition are very, very important, and that is a strong foundation of the value of the ceremony. Like, I understand the value of ritual, and I understand, like, but then as you get away from the more extravagant rituals that were in the Catholic Church to sort of a more pedestrian church, like, it's going to be, you know, you come in, you have your coffee and your nice, like, wood things, but nothing fancy is happening. It seems like to break the Catholic Church away from that tradition is more. I see the value in holding on to that tradition. I don't know how you would jazz that up. What is my point exactly? But once you get to other types of religion, like, it's less about tradition in the ritualistic sense. Besides, we're going to church on Sunday. We all show up at this time. The priest gets up and speaks, or the father gets up and speaks. But there's not all of the call and response necessarily, or the pageantry that is involved in Catholicism, right? I don't think you'd want to cut that out, because, like, there's value in that.
Yeah, and I think that historically the Christian church has evolved away from, or in contrast to, the Catholic Mass.
Right.
And the Catholic structure, right?
Right.
And so what you describe as you show up and the pastor gets up and talks and then we sing a few songs. I mean, that's very much Reformation. That's very much a movement that said, you know what, the individual's experience of the Word, either the Bible or in preaching,
Right.
that is important. And the idea of this ritualized sense of communion with the Eucharist, that's
Right.
what we call, like, the bread and the wine and all that rigmarole, or the second part in the Catholic liturgy, the second part of the liturgy. They saw it in a very different way. Now, that spawned off, all of these kind of Reformation churches.
Right.
That it's a very different experience. And one that is, by the way, much more in line with the American experiment, because the American experiment is very Protestant, not Catholic.
Right.
At
No,
all.
sure. Absolutely.
It's just not. And there's always a lot of great suspicion about that. And that's a lot of historical incident or accident, right?
Right.
And so the Catholic event has always been burdened by this huge history
Right.
of 2,000 years of this evolving tradition
Right.
that's very Eastern and very very Jewish and then formed or shaped by, whether it's in Hungary or Scotland or wherever,
Right.
these pieces as they come together. And so there's a lot of stuff that's accruing or accreting, if you will,
Right.
to the service. And so it kind of has this big shell,
Right.
big shell around it that isn't the ritual, but is all these things that is picked up along the way. So
Yeah.
when you tear those away, though, there's still, like, this fundamental notion of reenacting the Last Supper.
Right.
And what is that? What's happening there with the bread and the wine and the
Right.
transubstantiation? Like, what's exactly going on?
Right.
And that has a lot of opportunity for transcendence
Right.
or real boredom.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
No, for sure.
And we know that from theater. Like, there are some transcendent pieces, like Hamlet or Lear can be transcendent, or it can be dead boring.
Wow. Yeah, if I have to see Hamlet again ever, I don't want to do it. I mean, I'm done with it. But yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And I understand,
Because-
go ahead.
Because the possibility is really, really big. Now, it can be very rote. Like, we just show up every Sunday, we do the same thing, we barely pay attention, we just get through it. That obviously can be the problem all the time. And it can slowly become your grandmother's 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 church.
Right.
Rather
Right.
than, well, what do we want to do? Because it has to, like, if it's a living tradition,
Right.
we say that faith is it the how do they say that? It's the living tradition of the dead, or is it the dead tradition of the living?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But that doesn't just happen by itself. It has to be people, different generations reinvesting in, like, okay, so here's the ritual we've been given as far as historically. How do we make it our own within these structures
Right.
and make it really live and breathe? Now,
Right.
I've had experiences of leading groups or leading a parish structure where you can really invite a lot of life into
Right.
that. And I get to do that because I'm moving to Hollywood in August. And I get to do that in our parish in Hollywood called Blessed Sacrament, which we don't know why we've been there for 100 years, the Jesuits. And it's kind of a dumpster fire in many ways. And so they would like me to go, my leadership would like me to go spend 3 years to figure out what it is we could do there. Should we stay or should we go?
Right.
And if we stay, why are we there and what are we doing?
Are we talking about Hollywood, California?
Hollywood, California.
Not West Hollywood, the Hollywood.
Sunset Boulevard.
Oh, Sunset Boulevard. Hollywood is trashy as shit, right? I mean, not WeHo, but like actual Hollywood is so trashy. I love it. But is that where you guys are located? Like where it's like nail salons every foot and like
That's us. But for example, but that's another. But the structures are always falling into disaster because they're human,
Right.
And things fall apart. 100 years in, and who knows what we're doing and what to do the right
sure.
thing. And there's always an opportunity to once again re-engage the spirit, re-engage like
Right.
what are we trying to do?
What is
So
the
anyway.
parish like there?
Well, I spent a couple of days on Zoom. 22 different people telling me what the parish was like.
Right, how do you know, right?
But I don't really know.
Yeah.
I mean, and COVID has made just
Yeah,
a mess
impossible,
of everything.
of course. But do they have a
everyone's-
for real Catholic church? Like, for
Oh, yeah.
real? Like,
I mean,
like,
it's a big campus. Like, there's a church that seats 1,400 people.
Right.
A great, big, gorgeous church. And there's a grade school, historic grade school that, should have 300 students, has 81 and needs to close. Will probably close finally.
wow, has had 81 before COVID. It was like not.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay,
it was kind of a mess. So that needs to close. There's also a big homeless services center that's part of the campus as well.
That's great.
Because there's a huge homeless
Yeah,
population.
you don't have to tell me that. I know. Yeah.
In Hollywood. It does a variety of things. There's a Hispanic population that used
Yeah,
to live there.
absolutely.
Now
Yeah.
they've been priced out, so
Right.
they come back in. There's a lot of gentrification in the neighborhood. There's a lot
Right.
of building of and the demographic is 25 to 40, and
Right.
then they get married and they go somewhere else. So
Right.
I don't know. There's a lot of challenges, but what I'm saying is but that's always the case with churches that they at their best they respond to the current times
Yeah.
with a historical structure.
Right, right. There was a Catholic church in one of the neighborhoods, Coyoacan, in Mexico City. That was just 2 blocks away from where I was, and that's where I miss. There's not a church that's open nearby here. Other neighborhoods, I would be in, and there would be temples everywhere on the street, so I could like have my connection with Mary or Christ or whatever it is that I was doing, just out on the street, and I would do my little cross and just sit there. But when the Catholic church was so close, I would go every morning, and it was something I looked forward to. And usually it was early enough. It was just after they'd opened. There would be nobody, maybe a couple other people in there. And I would wander around and look at, Jesus. And they would have some serious Jesuses there. Like, wow, yeah, that really is what he looks like. Holy crap. That's an unpleasant scene. But that's like part of the deal, right? And so you go, and I would sit. And for me, being in that space, I didn't go to the service because it would be in Spanish anyway. I mean, but like whatever. But I would just go and sit by myself, and all the things that I was going through at that time, I would just say, knowing that I was in a place that was for this, that people come in and people would sit there and they would be doing whatever they're doing, praying to whatever, about whatever it is, whatever sickness, whatever. This is a place of quiet, of contemplation, of connection with something bigger than oneself, and a submission to a larger idea of life, And I would go in and I would say, just give me the strength, not asking Jesus specifically, not thinking that Jesus is going to do this or God, but just like to whatever. Give me the strength to do these things and to keep myself calm and to, with my personal issues and whatever, and take that time to sit with it. And it would be it meant a lot to me to do that,
Yeah.
Just to be go ahead.
And that's a basic dynamic within religious life
Yeah.
or spiritual life, is just like really simply, we believe that God is always, but God creates us to be free. So
Right,
not to be slaves, not to be like you have to turn to God. No.
Right.
God creates us to be free. Like you can either turn to God or not, and God's like fine.
Right.
But then the religious moment is when we choose to turn to something larger than we are.
Right.
When we choose to say, God, I need your help, or I want to be in your presence,
Right.
or I choose to, right?
Right.
Because that's your human power is to choose to engage God or not.
Right.
And the church grows out of that moment.
Do you believe in hell? Literally?
I believe in hell, but I don't believe in hell in the sense of, as is often portrayed, but who does? I mean, maybe some people do.
Some people do. Oh my God, are you kidding me? Sure they do.
But But hell is, like I just said, human beings are free to choose.
Right.
And so we can choose to be with God or not. And hell is not being with God.
Not being with God.
And not because you're being punished, not because you made the wrong choice. You continue to make your choice. And I was in college when I first kind of understood that this was the notion, because I still carried around a notion of like, first of all, you do whatever the hell you want, and then you're just smart enough that on your deathbed,
You're right. You can time it just right. Nailed it.
you can be exactly.
Get the priest in here
convert
now.
somehow. So you lived 80 years,
Right.
And during that time, you wanted nothing to do with Jesus, okay?
Right.
But at the last minute, you choose to spend eternity with someone you didn't want to spend 80 years with. How does
Right.
that make any sense?
Right, totally. Or you like buy your way into heaven. Like, oh, I'm gonna that whole like what?
No.
What is your understanding? Yeah.
And there are better configurations of this notion of hell is you choosing not to be with God.
Right.
So, and that's just, it's hard to say that sentence because hell seems that there's like fire involved
No.
and a lot of pain and suffering. And yeah, there's pain and suffering, but it's stuff that you have continued to choose.
Right. For me,
continue to choose.
yeah. Let me tell you what my understanding of hell is, and my understanding of what all that is all about. Because I think we've talked about this before, where I thought, like, I can't believe in a God that would send me to hell when I have tried almost all of my life to be a good person and to be generous and to be kind. But didn't accept Christ as my Savior. But I got it. So it seems to me like what God is to me is selfless love, is the thing that makes us consider other people over ourselves. You know what I mean? Making those choices to help other people. Like you talked about giving money to a homeless person and having no connection. I don't need you to thank me. I don't need a card. I don't need anything. I am doing this simply because you are a human being as well. And I can do this. Or so that what God's love, the whole idea of selfless love, where we really choose to do things for other people out of no reward, expecting no benefit, but just because that is the grace of being a person and being kind. And so when you are complete, and evil to me is selfishness that is complete, that is self-centered, sort of self-involved thinking. And that is just evil to me. And that life, the life for that person is that much less rich. Is not to say that much less rich. I think it is a very empty, hollow, sad life when all you do is consider yourself. When you never open your heart up to love, true love, that is about more than yourself. And so to me, to the person who goes through life, like let's say our ex-president, I think his life must have been hell. His life is hell. I can't imagine it isn't.
Correct. And you are kind of nudging towards one of a formulation of sin,
Right.
Which is sin as sickness or infirmity.
Right.
That people act in a sinful way, and let's just say selfishness in this regard. And President Trump, from a distance, because who knows what's really going on, but
Yeah, I'm going to say it. You're a priest. I'm going to say it. He seems. How could he not be? Anyway. Okay. Yeah.
No. But, I mean, as far as like speculating reasons why, I mean, we'd see his behavior.
Yeah.
But you just like, good Lord, he must have had a terrible childhood.
Of course.
That family seems insane. His
course.
dad, like all that sort of stuff. And so you begin to think of him as broken and in need of love and affection that he never got, and therefore, that's how you become a malignant narcissist. That's
Right.
how it happens.
Right.
And so, but you begin to see sin as sickness,
Right.
as
Right.
real sickness.
Right.
And just to your point, so that sin is almost always self-punishing in the sense of, if you want to be selfish, pretty soon you're going to be alone.
Alone. Absolutely.
That's just how it's going to work.
Absolutely.
And if you choose not to be selfish, it's not like you're going to have 1,000 friends just because of that, but your life is going to be demonstrably better.
Absolutely.
It just
Absolutely.
is.
It just is. Like, and this is I don't know this is exactly on par, but like, if you go, I had said, like, if you go to a nice restaurant, or if you want good service, you can have money or be nice. Like,
Yeah.
you just walk in, if you're a good person and you're kind, it comes back to you. I mean, not always, not like you can't expect it, but like you go to I went to LA and we were getting our Hertz rent-a-car, and it was a long line. This is before COVID and all that, but still, it was a hard time. And the one behind the counter, she was obviously having a bad day. And I get up there, I'm like, hey, how's it going? It was just nice, you know what I mean? It was just kind and personable to her and acknowledged how hard her day was or whatever. We just had a conversation. And I got myself a convertible, you know, for economy price. And that's whatever. But like, it's a very concrete example of like, it comes back to you. Like, convertibles, all kinds of things.
I'd like to add a story to that. I was in LA some years ago, and I was picking up a rental car, and for whatever reason, the conversation went really badly. And I'm sure I'm to blame, or part of it. Whatever.
Yeah, I'm not perfect either. God knows.
It did not go well at all, and I got stuck with a purple PT Cruiser at full price. Okay.
Say how it goes.
I was like, you seriously? A PT Cruiser in LA? Like, people were laughing and pointing on the street. I was like, what the hell?
Might as well give you a clown wig. And like, no.
Does this come with a nose? Like a rubber?
There are cat ears on this car. Oh my God.
God. Yeah, so yes, that was...
But that's like a very silly, but concrete in many other ways that are not so easily demonstrable.
Yeah,
it comes back to you. Just like being kind, just being considerate, just thinking about other people and thinking, just thinking and considering your actions. Like we'll never be perfect because we can never anticipate what everybody in the world needs and how our actions are going to affect them. And because we are human and because there's just too many of us to like make decisions that are going to hurt nobody, right? Like that's just not going to happen. But the more you try and more you think like, oh, this person seems to be having a hard day. Let me hold the door for them. It does me no harm. Or it maybe makes it a little more inconvenient for me to wait here in the rain. But you know what? It's a lot worse for that person in the wheelchair to try to open this door if I just wait here for a second, get a little bit wet, and like help them out. So doing that cost benefit, like again, but like it costs me less than it hurts them for me to do this thing. So I'm going to do it.
Correct. And I would say that given the building of a habit like that in a person, say that person in the wheelchair, you begin hopefully there's steps to it, right? Because you begin to start thinking about those people as fully human.
Right.
And you begin to wonder, I can do simple acts like this, but I can also start thinking about what we would call structural sin, or social sin.
Right.
Like,
oh, yeah.
Why are this group of people badly used? Or why do these people have no money and all those people have all the money? You begin to start extrapolating from those individual pieces to much bigger ways to affect change or be good to people.
Right.
You know? And that's where the church comes in at its best, and certainly a religious order like I get to be part of, which is, somewhere along the line, someone had a deep experience of Christ within their lives, and then it began to extrapolate out. Like, how do we actually change the world for good by looking at unjust / sinful systems or structures that keep people in suffering?
Yeah, for sure.
How do we start changing that?
How do you start changing them? Like I was reading an article last night about grocery shopping, like how horrible it is. Like this miracle of grocery shopping, which I got to experience in Mexico City, where it's not quite as, they have Walmarts there, but you get a sense of how pampered we are in America. But the price that the world pays to like let us go to the QFC and have everything, everything right there and reasonably priced. Well, somewhere down the chain, somebody paid for that to be so cheap, and just, we don't think about it. And it's a big thing to think about because it's like, how do you change it? Well, God, it's a long change and it makes life a lot less convenient for us. But we should all want to suck it up just a little bit if we...
Correct. And these are structures that are human-made, so humans can unmake them.
Unmake them. But part of unmaking them is not just, because they're not going to like unmake it and you're still going to be able to get $3 chuck. Like, it's still, like, some things are going to have to change.
Yeah,
it's not going to be as convenient. And it's not going to be as cheap. In the way
that's going to have to change.
Yeah. And then we might have to re-examine, well, maybe I should cook myself more, and whatever. Like all these different changes you could make on your own that would help down the supply chain of all the bullshit that we get, and all the, do I need to eat this fish? Whatever it is, like that downstream, like costs so much money and lives. Like, like maybe I have it once a
Correct.
month. Like maybe I don't need it every Friday or Monday or every day.
Great, and you begin to ask questions about the real cost of things.
Yeah, the real cost.
In the sense of and what sectors have to soak up the cost,
Right.
Rather than you being passed on to you. And it's
Right.
almost always the environment and the poor
Right, absolutely.
are the ones that have to absorb the cost.
You're right, right, and nobody
And
asks them.
No, because they don't have to be asked.
Right, right.
You can just screw it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So why the Jesus thing? Do we want to talk about Jesus next?
Let's talk about Jesus
episode?
next time, because that's it's getting to
Okay.
be like about an hour that we've chatted now. It's a pretty big topic, and I'm interested because I take it pretty seriously. My connection to what that is, my exploration of what all that is, and I have some pretty
Yeah.
like deep questions to ask you. So let's put that off until our next chat.
Yeah, that'd be good because I can talk about spirituality and religion, about how to be a nice person. That's
Right, yeah,
fine.
yeah, that's easy.
And that's super important. But then we get to a more fundamental piece of like, no, actually, the Jesus thing, that event's very different.
Right, exactly. And
Yeah.
for me, like, where I get stuck up in religion, like I can accept Jesus and I can accept Jesus. I can see what his value and see him as a prophet, right? But when religion gets to the point where it's like, you have to accept Jesus as the one way, then I'm like, oh, hold on, right? Because I can see the value in other prophets, the great prophets that have done it as well. So I'm interested
Yeah,
to talk to you about
that'll
that
be
and how that
that'll be a
fits
good
into your
conversation.
understanding of Catholicism and where your place in it. So let's
No, I
table
love
that,
it.
Terry, until next time.
All right, I love it. So just as a recap,
Yeah.
we talked about Jesus, we talked about church,
little
we talked
bit.
about glory holes and apples.
That's right.
Were there
Oh, God, can we have to
other-
come back to apples? God damn those apples. Apples and glory holes. Confession booths next.
I would just like to say that I live in New York State, and so when I go to the market, the farmers market here,
Yeah.
I can choose between like 15 different apples, which is superb.
Right.
I
That's
suppose
great.
Canada was like that too, back east.
I don't
Canada.
remember. I wasn't buying produce when I
Ah,
was
that's true, yeah.
13, you know?
Yeah. But it's super nice. I mean, I
Yeah.
was surprised in Washington State. You're often just like 3 kinds of apples. That's it.
Okay, let me tell you this. So I don't have, ladies and gentlemen, let me say again, I don't have a job. And I went down and I was putting my money together and I had 97 cents on like a star, like coin star thing. So I was like, I have 97 cents. What can I do? I'm all right. I have food and stuff. But I went, I'm going to get an orange, $1.35. God damn it. I bring it back. And this is COVID, right? So I'm like, I'm waiting in line and I'm like, fuck this. And I go put the orange back. I'm like, $1.50 for an orange. Go get an apple. It's like $1.27. I was like, can you buy nothing for $1 at the grocery store? And you know what? You mostly can't. Not here. Really. That's why I bought a packet of gravy. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding.
Why did you get a packet of brown gravy?
Because I had French fries at home
Okay.
and I'm Canadian.
Oh, well, you said it right there.
Oh, yeah, I did. I'll say it again. I'm Canadian, eh? Let me get I
Do
can't
you-
get my Canadian accent very well.
Do you
Okay,
call-
yeah,
do-
right, eh?
do you-
We're talking about
do you call
Canada,
Do you
eh?
call it poutine? Do you call it poutine?
No, you don't call it poutine. Poutine is very specific. You call it French fries and gravy. I didn't have no, but poutine is French fries and gravy with cheese. You know this.
Oh, right. Yeah.
With a specific
No,
type
I
of
just-
cheese, but then it can also be bacon. And you go to like when I was in, I guess it was just in Vancouver, but it's certainly in Montreal. You go to like poutine restaurants, and they're like, "Oh my god, like okay, I get it."
Are you a poutine fan?
Yeah, I love poutine, but not in all of its forms. I don't want broccoli poutine. You know, I take it easy. I really basically want French fries that are crispy with gravy and cheese. Bacon is nice, but beyond that, like I don't want like teriyaki. You know, like it's okay. Like stop.
I don't need that.
Everything
I don't need
doesn't have to be everything.
sun-dried tomato poutine. No.
That's right. Everything doesn't have to be everything, you know? Like, it's good as it was. And that's poutine, ladies and gentlemen.
The ladies and gentlemen. All right, well, I guess we'll leave it there.
Let's do.
At poutine.
Poutine.
Great. And so I will send out
Yeah.
an invitation a couple more times next week.
Yes, please. Absolutely do.
Okay.
All
Love
right.
it. Thank you.
I love
Thank you again for
talking to
doing
you.
this.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you.
Bye,
Bye.
Father.
Bye.